how far you came in those goals, because if we don't recognize the baby steps we took, we're never going to recognize the big steps. Hello and welcome to the end of the year. It is December 31st, 2020. I wanted to thank you for being a part of my year 2020. It has been memorable. I have grown a lot. I've learned a lot. I've saved a lot of toilet paper. I've avoided going to see people. I learned how to breathe with a mask on, as we all have, I am sure. But more than that, I made friendships and subscribers from you guys. So thank you. I wanted to cheers. It's water today because I'm boiling hot. But I wanted to go over my major chronic illnesses with you and tell you my ups and my downs and see how things are going in my life. And hasn't it been a wonderful 2020? I'm looking forward to 2021 and for some better results in my chronic disabilities and in my orchid growing. I hope to get better at that in the next year. But I wanted to share today, go through my chronic fatigue, my fibromyalgia, and my migraines, and fourthly, the goal that I set earlier in the year. If you remember, I got onto my old friend. I introduced myself to Mr. Treadmill because I needed to lose some weight. Well, I will tell you how that is coming along at the end of the video. First off, I wanted to say that my fibromyalgia has been, for this year, harder than it's been in years past. I think 2010 was one of my really, really hard years. And so I'm comparing 2010 to 2020, and they're about comparable. 2010 was when we first started treating me for the chronic fatigue syndrome. And the number one line of defense that my neurologist started me on was Prozac to help lessen the hypersensitivity of my nerves. And I spent 12 years on that. And this year I was able to come off of that because it had stopped being effective. And good news, good report is after 4 months, I have not sunk into any form of depression. Now, I never started taking Prozac for any depression that I was dealing with, but I know that after it's been in your body for so long and the brain has gotten used to what it was producing in there, you can crash and slip into. And so far, after four and a half months now, that has not flared up. My dog is at the door trying to get in for this conversation. She just wanted to be in here with me. She was growling up the door. Oh, let me in, Mom. You can't see her, but she's, oh, there you can. She's giving me the back of her head. Hello, Mom. You can stop making that video anytime soon and scratch my head. Yeah, go right ahead. So the fibromyalgia for me, I went off of the Prozac because it was non-effective anymore. And the pains were kind of climbing up pretty high. I would say in the averages, they would, when I'd have a flare-up, it'd be in the 8s to 9s of a pain level. We went on Lyrica, we as in me, myself, and I, and had about 4 to 4.5 great weeks on that. And then by like the 5th week, I started developing welts and blisters, and we had to come off of it to prevent any further damage that it might be doing internally. So, boom, cut. That happened to also be the 4 weeks where I had the least amount of migraines in a row. After we went off the Lyrica, had to clear that out of my system, I started up on Savella, and that has been what I've been enjoying for the last almost going on 2 months now. So it has taken the pains down and enabled me to move and to get more movement in my body. My feet don't hurt, my wrists don't hurt. It makes a world of difference. And remember, I always encourage you, if you've tried one thing and it didn't work, it doesn't mean the next thing won't, or the next thing combined with something else might work for you. So work with your doctor. Of course, if you have reactions, watch your body, know your body, and work with your doctors. Fibromyalgia now, if I had to give it a scale of 1 to 10, earlier in the year it was ranking in at an 8, like I said. I would say it's probably down to a 3. So it's very, very minimal. That is a good thing for 2020. Moving on to number 2, my chronic fatigue syndrome. That usually pairs up and goes parallel with the fibromyalgia. So it was more intense when I was in those weeks of getting off of the Prozac and swinging into the new medicines, then getting off the new medicine, and then having to start a second medicine. I would say for the chronic fatigue for this year, I was probably at the most maybe a 6. Really do think that the Savella and having the fibromyalgia under control helps me with the chronic fatigue.
Well, that was odd and random. Hopefully that doesn't mean the world's coming to an end or a volcano's going to explode or anything like that.
Leaves us with the third thing. Oh, the brain. The brain, the migraines. My number 1 chronic illness is migraines. And I showed you in the last video that, yep, I had a whopper of them. I thought I'd clear out the year at about 180, maybe 85. But I think we pushed it up to about 192, 193. So I was able to go in on Monday. That would be just 4 days ago. And they inject a big ass long needle. It's not comfortable. Botox is bearable. It's like little bee stings. Ting, 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 ting. Nerve blocks, he goes and he pushes with his thumbs along the ridge of the bones, and he finds your most tender spot. And usually it's the greater occipital nerve, or it's the lesser ones that branch out. So he goes along and he finds where you flex and go, yeah, and he injects you there. And then again, because the occipital nerve goes from the base of the skull and will come up and wrap around and come behind the eye, I was getting, my migraines were constantly in this area when I'm having occipital neuralgia triggered migraines. And in the back here, it will hurt like I was whopped with a baseball bat. So those spots, he finds the tender spots. He injects a lidocaine, a steroid, and something else in there. And it goes up, and you usually feel it immediately kind of roll up, and all of a sudden it's numb, and you're like, oh. And well, he did this side, and I got that relief. And this one, no, not so much. If you notice, my eye is kind of hanging. And he does it by touch in his office. There are other procedures, other ways of doing it. And I'm hurting. I'm hurting a lot. It didn't relieve it. I had to pay a big dollar amount to have it done. But he also said to me, I need to be forwarded on to a pain management clinic, because he doesn't have anything else in his repertoire to try. And he thinks, because I say 80% of the time, if he injects it in the exact right spot by just touch and feel, it's relief for 3 weeks, easy. So he is referring me to a pain management clinic, and of course right away my first thoughts are, you've got to be kidding me. Said it's time to go to a pain management clinic, and he didn't explain why at first, but right away I think a few things. And tell me if you've been to a pain management clinic before. I think right away they're going to tell me it's mind over matter, just your way out of it. And I was like, I don't want to hear that. Or, I'm boiling here. Or they're going to tell me, here's some stronger drugs, take that. or go into new physical therapy. And I'm like, but I've done that for 3 years. On my neck, I've done the physical therapy. I've done the treatment. But so I had red flags going up, and I was frustrated, and I had a cranky day. I put on my Lucy Charlie Brown socks, and I said, you know, I was just having some attitude with myself. Me, myself, and my dog, we were just having some attitude. And when I went in for the injections that evening, he said, what they'll do at the pain management center, I'm referring you in to get nerve ablations, radio frequency nerve ablations. I'm like, oh. Then I had to read up about it. I was like, let me know if you've ever had them done. I will research them some more, and I'll explain it to you in another video, but that is what he wants me to do for 2021, is to go and get nerve ablations. And if the pain clinic won't do it, he says, I will refer you right over to radiology like they do the chemotherapy patients, and we will get it done for you. And so those are what is in my future for 2021, is possibly some nerve ablations in the occipital neuralgia nerve. I'm sure they'll take an MRI and find out exactly if there's facets and discs that are impinging. Ultrasounds to actually see where the nerves are located. There are procedures called nerve stimulators that people get put in their brains. There's also a procedure that's the most aggressive, where they go into the back of your skull and they go deep and they remove and go down to the nerve level, and they block it somehow from touching the other parts that make the signals fire off. A decompression, they call it. I don't know what boat I will be rowing my little boat in next year, so I will go for it. I'll be diligent. I'll do my part. I'll go to the pain management clinic, see what they have to offer, and I'll let you guys know. But overall, migraines have been the most annoying of all of my chronic illnesses for 2020, so I'm thinking it can only get better for 2021. It has to get better. I'm praying it gets better. When you have that many days, you just don't plan as much, and you don't dream as big as you can. But I'm learning every day to keep dreaming, to keep hoping. And as I go through and play with my orchids, water them, I'm reminded some of my orchids, they go into a winter season where all of their leaves fall off. I have one up here. You can't really see it. I'll get it down for you. It looks about as dead as it can be with these just dry canes. They were actually brown leaves this morning when I checked on it, and I just went like that and stripped them right off like you would an herb, you know, off the stalk. But this plant goes into a winter resting cycle where it just barely needs a drink. Like, there's a drink, and then it goes weeks and weeks and months, and it's resting. And then one day it'll start forming buds on these death-looking canes. Flowers will emerge. I just can't fathom that. I've seen one pop out last year because that was new to me, a new plant to me. And I got one, maybe two, and I was like, wow! But that's like our life. Some of us, you know, sometimes we're in the lush green, still growing, got the flowers, got the green health showing. And then other times it's this stick of nothingness, and it has to sit on the shelf and just rest. Are you on a season of sitting on the shelf resting? It's not easy, but you will bloom. You will bloom. So I encourage you to not give up, to keep watering your soul with what makes you feel healthy, feel strong, feel nourished. If it's your orchids, if it's your hobby, if it's your time of quietness, if it's journaling, if it's reading, maybe it's mastering a recipe that you've been attempting over and over and over again. So maybe you are in a season of waiting. Maybe you're in a season of preparing yourself to get better. Maybe you're in that practice stage. I'm going to practice this recipe. I'm going to practice this change of media with my orchids. I'm going to just experiment with life. Maybe that's where you're at now. Maybe you're in just complete rest. Maybe you're on the go and you're like, yeah, feeling great. I'm going to start something new. I'm going to start a job that I haven't been able to do in years. What is it you're doing? What season are you in? And don't be ashamed of the season you're in. It may be a long season. It may be years that you're in a season. But you will bloom and you will blossom. Because you have to. I said so. I wanted to share one final thing with you. The fourth thing that I wanted to share with you was my goal this year was to lose some weight. My doctor asked me to lower my liver enzymes, that I was getting elevated liver enzymes, and she said I had a non-alcoholic fatty liver, and in order to help that, of course, stay off of all alcohol, but to lessen my anti-inflammatory pills that I needed to take for all the pain that I was in, but also to lessen the migraine pills that had Tylenol in the concoction of the pills. She said to me was, if you can try to lose 10 pounds, she was being kind, I know she was, she meant like, can you lose more than 10? But it was a starting place. And I set that as one of my goals this year. If you remember earlier, I was going to treadmill every day for 5 minutes and then increase it. And I was going to lower my sugars. And I was able to successfully lower my sugars. I don't crave the sugars much anymore. I drink a lot of water. Sugars I try not to bring into the house, the processed sugary things, but of course you gotta love your mom. You gotta love your mom, especially on the holiday season when she thinks you need just another type of cookie. Oh, and some fudge, and don't forget the almond roca. And anyway, like I say, you gotta love your mom and try it all. But tomorrow's a new day, and I'm going back to hardly any added sugars in my diet. And I wasn't able to do the treadmill successfully because that was right when the exchanging and changing of the fibromyalgia pills were going through my body. So I was in and out and up and down, and then the chronic fatigue. And literally, it hurt to walk, it hurt to stand and do much of anything. So I did not do that. But I hope to, in the new year, starting tomorrow, get back on that treadmill and start working the heart and learning to train my body to get more cardiovascular movement. But as a whole, with what I was doing, I was able to successfully lose 14 pounds. I am happy. I am thankful. I hope my doctor sees the improvement in the blood work. That will be coming in the middle of January. I don't see her again until then, but we'll get the lab works and see if the numbers have dropped, because that's what's important, not whether you fit in your jeans or not. Although it helps if you can fit in your jeans. I wanted to share with you, it is a hard thing to lose weight when you are in chronic illness mode and you are on medicines and you cannot do as much as you dream and you want. So you gotta come up with ways to make it a little bit of a change. For me, it was when I knew I was hungry, I didn't go downstairs and eat something big and carby, I would take maybe a bite of an apple and some vegan cheese and some almonds and then lots of water and go back to bed. But I am trying to do my part, and I hope some of your goals that you have set this year you were able to make or to meet or to come an inch further than you were last year. Let me know in the comments below what were some of the goals that you were trying to work on and how far you came in those goals, because if we don't recognize the baby steps we took, we're never going to recognize the big steps. We'll just always feel like a failure. But when you can recognize those baby steps, it's a good thing. Another good thing is my Bella. She's doing well. I'm thankful for her. She's at my feet, wondering if we're going to go on a walk. So, with that said, I better go on a walk. Till we talk again. Bye-bye.
Trying to impress me, pulling out all the stops, making my head dizzy when you tell me what you want. I just wanted you to see me, never thought you'd notice. Thought that you should know I'm already sold, so never let me go. You had me at a la 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 la.